and my video today is on osteology, a rudimentary view of the skeletal system. My daughter Raven Lewis is assisting me today, and my friend here. Hi.
The skeletal system encompasses 206 bones, along with cartilages, ligaments, and other connective tissues that stabilize and interconnect them. This video will deal only with the rudimentary view of the skeletal system. The skeletal system has two sections, the axial skeleton and the appendicular skeleton. Beginning with the axial skeleton, the skull. Here we have a skull. We have the cranial cavity divided into three foci, where the brain sits. We have the ear cavity, the nasal cavity, as well as orbits for the eyes. Cranial bones are connected at the serrated lines called sutures. We have the frontal bone, the two large parietal bones, the temporal bones, and the occipital bone. The interior view of the skull are the facial bones, the mandible or lower jawbone, the maxillary bones that form the upper jaw and part of the face. There are two zygomatic bones, also known as cheekbones, two nasal bones that make up the bridge of the nose. We complete the skull with the foramina, the passage at the base of the skull where the nerves, arteries, and veins pass through. Just beneath the skull is the hyoid bone, which sits below the mandible and does not connect with any other bone. Next in the axial skeleton is the vertebral column, spinal column or spine, a flexible structure in a curvy S shape that supports everything from the skull to the pelvis. The spine is divided into 5 sections. The first 7 cervical vertebrae, C1 through C7, the thoracic vertebrae, T1 through T12, and the last 5 are the lumbar vertebrae, L1 through L5. Below the vertebrae, we have the sacrum, 5 vertebrae fused together. And below the sacrum is the coccyx, also known as the tailbone. To complete the axial skeleton is the thoracic cage, formed by the sternum and the ribs. The sternum is a flat bone in the middle of the thorax, or chest. We have 12 pairs of ribs. The first 7 pairs connect to the sternum. These are called true ribs, 1 through 7. Then there are 5 pairs of false ribs, that's 8 through 12. The last 2 are floating ribs, 11 and 12, because they have no connection with the sternum. Now we move to the appendicular skeleton. First is the pectoral girdle, where the arms form a joint with the trunk, and the pelvic girdle that attach the limbs to the axial skeleton. The pectoral girdle comprised of the clavicle, or collarbone, and the scapula, or shoulder blade. A large process at the glenoid cavity, the scapula, articulates with the humerus. It extends from the scapula to the elbow. Slow down. Okay. The olecranon, the superior end of the ulna, is the point of the elbow. At the condyle, the humerus articulates with the radius and the ulna of the forearm. The hand has many separate bones. The styloid process of the radius helps stabilize the wrist joints. The distal end of the radius articulates with the bones of the wrist. The carpus, or wrist, called carpals, the 5 metacarpals make up the palm of the hand, and they are simply named 1 through 5. These connect the phalanges that make up your fingers. The pelvic girdle attaches the lower limbs to the axial skeleton, just as the pectoral girdle attaches the upper limbs. This girdle starts at the sacrum and continues to the 2 hip bones. Lastly, the lower limbs contain very thick bones. The thigh bone, called the femur, is the largest bone in the body. Then we have the leg, 2 bones, the tibia and the fibula. The larger tibia and the fibula notch. Now to conclude, we get to the foot. Similar to the hand, there are tarsus, called tarsals. The biggest 2, the talus and the calcaneus, make up the ankle. Next we see metatarsus, again numbered 1 through 5. Like the hand, 14 phalanges, 3 per toe, except for the big toe, also known as the halix. This concludes our trip through the skeletal system.